Good afternoon. Welcome to everyone. Hello to council members. We have Councillor Baines joining us remotely on screen. And unfortunately, Mayor Hamlin is not available today, or Councillor McCullough. But I will welcome those in attendance in the gallery and those who are viewing. I'm going to bring to order the Monday, January 19th, 2026 council meeting. And our first order of business is the national anthem. So if you're able to, please stand and we will play that. And then calling the council order to order, I'll ask Councillor Perry to read in the land acknowledgement.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Fryer. For more than 15,000 years, the First Nations have walked upon and cared for the lands we now call home. Anishinaabeg, Haudenosaunee, Ojibwe, and many others who were families, friends, and communities the way we are today. The town of Collingwood acknowledges the Lake Simcoe-Nottawasaga Treaty of 1818 and the relationship it establishes with the original inhabitants of Turtle Island. We acknowledge the reality of our shared history and the current contributions of Indigenous it's a hard word, Indigenous people within our community. We seek to continue empowering expressions of pride amongst all the diverse stakeholders in this area. We seek to do better and to continue to recognize, learn, and grow in friendship and community, nation to nation.
Thank you. The next order of business is the adoption of the agenda. And I'll read in the recommendation that the content of the Council Committee of the Whole agenda for January 19th, 2026 be adopted as amended. And the one amendment is the motion added under item 14.1, which is regarding a question on the ballot. So I'll ask for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Doherty and Councillor Jeffrey, and all those in favor? And that's unanimous. And a request to speak, certainly. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just, I should have pointed out, I do have a brief notice of motion for under notice of motion in the agenda.
Thank you. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Don't see any indication, but of course, if you find yourself in that situation, just speak to it. So we'll move on to community announcements, and I'll turn to Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So just one brief one, just reminding my council colleagues that we now have our team set up in Coldest Night of the Year, and I sent you all an email, and I know some have already joined the team. Looking forward to repeating what we did last year, which was pretty incredible, and fundraising as a team. And just to let the public know that they can search our team, Collingwood Council Challengers, and we'd be so pleased if you could donate to help our unhoused and vulnerable youth. Thank you.
Councillor Doherty.
Thank you, Chair. The town of Collingwood is embarking on a multi-year accessibility plan. And as a first step, we are consulting the public through BDO Canada LLP. We will be undertaking a series of public consultations and an online survey. The public survey has already opened, and that is online under the Engage Collingwood page. And there will be consultations with the public, youth, and equity-deserving groups occurring this week on Wednesday and Thursday, and a virtual town hall will be held next Thursday. And just the online survey closes on February 20th. So all of that information can be found on the Engage Collingwood page. Thanks.
Councillor Potts.
Thanks, Chair. Last Wednesday, the Collingwood Collegiate Institute hockey program, led by Todd Hammond, hosted Hockey Day in Collingwood, with a number of elementary schools participating in the tournament throughout the day. It was a very well-received and busy day in both facilities. This year, the Worsley Elementary School had won the elementary school championship, and in the evening, both the varsity teams faced off. So the girls' varsity OLB defeated the girls' CCI varsity, and the boys' CCI varsity defeated the OLB varsity team. So congratulations to certainly all the participants, and big thanks to the town staff for the great work at both facilities. It was both areas were quite full, and it was quite busy, and the concessions and certainly the Sports Hall of Fame room was fully occupied the entire day. So a big shout out to town staff as well. So thanks.
Yeah, I had a chance to just catch the two high school games, and good attendance. And as you say, it was great to have that Hall of Fame room available. Councillor Ring.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Fryer. I have the same announcement as Councillor Doherty, and I wasn't going to repeat it, but I'll give more of the details, times, and dates if you don't mind, just so I got something to say, because I spent 20 minutes typing this up. Anyways, 20 minutes when it's two fingers, right? Anyways, as Councillor Doherty had explained, that the town have secured BDO Canada to develop the 2026 to 2030 accessibility plan. And some of the things they're going to do to get their information is they're going to include, as mentioned by Councillor Doherty, they're going to be 2 town hall public meetings and 2 stakeholder specific focus groups. And what I'll do here is I'll just give you the times and dates and locations of the 4 events, if you wouldn't mind. And the first one is going to be the equity deserving focus groups, scheduled for Wednesday, January 21st from 2 to 3 p.m. and that's in the Free Schools room at the Collingwood Public Library. This session is for people with lived experience in disability from Indigenous, LGBTQIA+, and other equity-deserving communities who live in, work, or are connected to Collingwood. The second event is the public in-person town hall. It's also scheduled for Wednesday, January 21st, but it's at 6 to 8 in the same room at the library. This town hall meeting is open to all residents, people with lived experience of disability, and caregivers who are invited to share their workings where barriers exist and what priorities should be included in the new accessibility plan. The third planned event is the youth group focus group. It's scheduled for Thursday, January 22nd from 4:30 to 5:30, also at the library. This session is for youth who live, attend school, or spend time in Collingwood. Youth with lived experience, disabilities, caregivers, and allies are all welcome. And the final one, as mentioned, is a virtual town hall, and it's scheduled for Thursday, January 29th from 6 to 8. You can join online to share your experiences, identify barriers, and suggest ideas for the accessibility plan. As mentioned, the meeting link will be posted in the project page by noon on January 29th. And before I get off, I'd just like to mention that January 11th, we all attended the mayor's levy, and I thought it was probably it was one of the biggest attended ones that I've ever been included or been at, and it was well run. I'd like to congratulate the town staff for all the work they did putting it together. I've heard a lot of compliments of the people that were there on the event, and we just keep getting better and better at that. That's my announcements.
Thank you for that. And Councillor Baines. Thank
you, Deputy Mayor. No announcements from me today.
Okay. Turn to Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Is learning a new language one of your New Year's resolutions? The library has you covered. They offer Spanish conversation on the first and third Tuesday of the month at 12 p.m. and French conversation every Friday at 10 a.m. They also have 2 databases, Mango and Transparent Language, that allow patrons to learn a variety of languages online. Also, visit the library this Friday, January 23rd at 10 a.m. for a morning filled with music, movement, bubbles, and books. This collaboration between CPL, Collingwood Public Library, and Early On is perfect for children from infants to 5 years old. You can register on the library's website.
Thank you very much. I was just going to mention a thank you to MPP Saunderson for hosting, along with MPP Mulrooney, the Simcoe County session at the Nottawasaga Inn for pre-consultation of the Ontario budget. And I had a chance to attend on behalf of council and was able to catch some very important presentations from various business and organizations from our area. My friend's house, for one, Collingwood BIA, both General Manager Nicholson and Mr. Conning had a chance to present, and he's followed up with some more detailed information to us about the presentations that they're making. Jan Trude also presented, a prominent business person here in Collingwood, and Ken Hale from GTDI, and so it was a good session, and I appreciate the efforts of the MPP to make that available to our community. I also will mention that I attended Sunset Manor, and they weren't able to hold their Xmas dinner because they had a bit of an outbreak just before Christmas. But they had their event last week, and they called it Winter Wonderland. And there was 2 nights. I went to the Thursday night. They had well over 200 people there for their dinners. And it's just so great to see how things have come along there. I can recall the first one I went to on behalf of the town and the county. It probably had half that number. And just to see that kind of a number out, and the staff and the volunteers, we recognized them. The other thing I was going to mention, they were pretty pleased with being able to help with Clearview's situation with that retirement facility that caught fire last week. They were able to send their new bus over and help out with moving the people who were there to the temporary locations. So that was all great. This Wednesday is the museum selfie day. So that's the 21st, and you can take a selfie with an exhibit or an artifact or a historical spot and share it on social media. And the last item is, I'll say Happy Blue Monday Day. Monday is considered, January 19th is considered Blue Monday. Wednesday is Bell Let's Talk Day. Both of these are reminders to reach out and check in on each other and take care of our mental health. Community support is available to those who need it via different ways. You can call or text 988. And that's a 24/7 crisis helpline. 211 for our local support. And call Kids Help Phone at 1-800-668-6868, or you can text Connect. And on the heels of that, I wanted to just briefly talk a little bit about, we all know the next couple of weeks is supposed to be very cold. And we were talking this morning on our orientation call and about the mechanisms in place right now for people to go to if they need to, who don't have a permanent shelter. And I continually take a look at the data portal on Simcoe County, and it does show that there's still some vacancy. So there's still the emergency program out in the motel on Highway or Beechwood Road. There's also a voucher program, and that's under the temporary family shelter program that's available. And again, 211 is the place to call. So if anybody needs assistance or knows somebody that needs assistance, they should make that call, and they'll be able to be helped right away. We've checked just as early as today with Simcoe County, and they continue to have room. So we're hopeful to be able to meet any needs that our community members may have. So just wanted to touch base about that. And I know it's a topic that's being discussed numerous times around our table. So if anybody wanted to add anything about it, certainly we could do it right here, or we just move on the agenda. Okay, so we'll go on to, we don't have any deputations today, and we do not have any public meetings. So the next matter of business is our council minutes. And I'll read in the recommendation that the minutes of the Council Committee of the Whole meeting held December 15th, 2025, excluding Committee of the Whole recommendations, and council meeting held January 12th, 2026 be approved as presented. And I'd ask for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Ring and Councillor Doherty. Thank you. And I will call that matter to, does anybody have any thing they'd like to discuss in regards to the minutes? I'll call it to a vote then. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Don't see any. So we'll move on to the approval of the Committee of the Whole recommendations. And item 8.31 it's the Committee of the Whole from December 15th, 2025. Recommendation is that the Committee of the Whole recommendations from its meeting held December 15th, 2025, contained within the December 15th, 2025 Council Committee of the Whole minutes be hereby approved as presented. P 2025-30 is the Municipal Capital Facility Bylaw and Affordable Housing Incentive Pilot Program. The next item, T 2025-21, is Development Charges Bylaw Amendment for Seasonal Structures. The next is T 2025-22, Amendment to the Council Community Grant Policy. And then the last one is the reports and minutes of other committees and boards. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councillor Perry and Councillor Jeffrey. Does anybody wish to speak to any of the four items? And I'll call that to a vote. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. And there are no staff reports. The next item is bylaws. And the recommendation is that the following bylaws be hereby enacted and passed this 19th day of January 2026. And the one item is bylaw number 2026-002, Municipal Capital Facility Bylaw. And it's pertaining to staff report P 2025-30. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Doherty and Councillor Ring. And then just before I call that to vote, I just wanted to take a second and just say that really appreciate all the efforts of our staff in regards to implementing this. It's the next step we're taking in our affordable housing master plan, and I think an important step. It's meant to govern the provision of municipal housing project facilities to provide forms of assistance to entities in the case that the municipality will not be owner, primary operator, or end user. And as I say, it's a key step, and it's a lot of hard work by the staff. So I want to make sure to thank staff for getting this through. There's not many municipalities that are at this stage with this type of thing. So that being said, I'll call the matter to the vote. All those in favor? And that is passed unanimously. And now we'll move on to department updates. And this is on the Tourism Master Plan for 2025. And it's the year-end progress update. I'll turn to Director Valentine to start us off, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Pryor. We can move directly to Manager Sharma, who's at the podium, and she's prepared with an introduction for our consulting team, who will be joining us online.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members of Council, and to those in the gallery or watching online, especially the valued members of our tourism industry. To provide everyone with some background for today's presentation, the Town Council in April 2025 approved the retention of consulting services supported by the town's portion of the net 2025 MAT revenue to execute priority initiatives identified in the Tourism Master Plan. As recommended in the staff report, Banneken, as the primary author of the Tourism Master Plan, was retained to continue to provide the town with expert advice to support sustainable tourism in Collingwood, as identified in the 2025 work plan endorsed by Council. Banneken, in collaboration with the Economic Development Division staff members, has been actively working on 11 key initiatives from the Tourism Master Plan throughout 2025 to advance tourism development in Collingwood. As Banneken's work draws to a close, we have invited Trevor Jonas Benson, Managing Partner at Banneken, who is joining us virtually today to provide us with an update on the progress of these 11 initiatives. The Economic Development Office proactively sent out a courtesy notice to the Tourism Collingwood interim board members and other tourism stakeholders who had previously participated in the consultation and development of the Tourism Master Plan, inviting them to tune in to today's departmental update presentation. We will follow up with the tourism industry and other stakeholders as we move into 2026 to share the insights, materials, updates, and ongoing communication for these 11 initiatives as well. But for now, we're very excited to welcome Trevor to the floor to share the accomplishments achieved under the Tourism Master Plan in 2025. So I'll hand it over to Trevor now, who's joining online.
Welcome, Trevor.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you for the introduction and for providing me with the opportunity to present a Tourism Master Plan implementation support update to you. Could I have the next slide, please? In May of last year, as introduced, we were engaged by the town to provide targeted and advisory support for the implementation of the Town of Collingwood Tourism Master Plan. Hereinafter, I'm going to refer to it as the TMP. After scoping high priority and approved initiatives as per the endorsed work plan, work began in earnest in June 2025. In total, 8 initiatives were identified for Banneken to lead implementation across a period of up to 12 months, and 3 initiatives were identified for Banneken to provide as needed and ongoing advisory support to staff at the town for a total of 11 initiatives. Next slide, please. With the time that I've been given this afternoon, I'm going to provide you with an update via an overview of the progress made on 8 of the targeted support initiatives. Before I begin, though, I wanted to share that for the advisory support that's been provided to date, the following has been included: reviewing Tourism Collingwood Interim Board foundational documents, providing perspective on grant opportunities that came across the year, such as Destination Canada's Tourism Sprint program, and providing input on the 2026 work planning for Tourism Master Plan implementation. Next slide, please. So in regards to the initiatives, as I mentioned, I'm just going to go through the 8 that we provided targeted support to. So to start, the first initiative that we got underway was the development of a TMP implementation tracker, along with a process for monitoring progress. The main objective for this initiative was to develop a tool that identifies what initiatives are being implemented, key details related to implementation, and progress made. As part of the process, we undertook a review of existing trackers, including internal town tools like like the Economic Development Strategy Framework and external good practices. This research informed the scoping design of the Collingwood TMP tracker. Next, we developed a draft TMP implementation tracker, which was further developed with feedback provided by the town staff, and we prepared and shared a use guide for staff in the future. We then used this tracker for all projects and all initiatives to map out and track progress on the TMP implementation, with the image being showed on this slide showing how the data from the tracker is being presented on the town's tourism website. As a result of this initiative, the town is able to have regular and ongoing insight into TMP implementation, and insights from the tracker can be used by the town to communicate progress both through its general tourism channels and directly with partners and others. Next slide, please. The next initiative that I'll focus on is A31, so the creation and maintenance of a contact database for tourism stakeholders within and outside of Collingwood. By way of background on this initiative, in developing the TMP, it became evident just how many people are involved in tourism, from residents to partner organizations to businesses, and we identified a need to figure out how best to communicate with them. As a result, this initiative and the one I'll present on the following slide around developing a communications plan are very intertwined. For this one, though, we work with town staff to review existing communication tools, channels, and contact lists. It was decided that a best approach to building a more robust contact list was to take a unique approach to different audiences. A key activity that we undertook was to develop a contact database for tourism partner organizations. The list includes more than 40 contacts and suggests the sorts of collaborations that could be explored with each partner to support tourism. Since the list was one of the first things we started working on when the manager of economic development just joined the town, it also created a valuable data set for her to start building relationships with these key stakeholders. To create a list of business owners interested in tourism, we decided to move forward with leveraging the economic development newsletter audience and develop a new tourism newsletter sign-up page to build out a list of residents and tourism businesses. This newsletter sign-up page is being promoted through the broader economic development communication channels, and sign-ups have already started to come in. Next slide, please. As I just noted a moment ago, Initiative 3.2, which dovetails with the last one, is focused on developing and implementing a communications plan for sharing TMP and tourism-related updates with stakeholders, including implementation progress, resources, and engagement opportunities. In close collaboration with town staff, we developed a plan that had a particular focus on year one implementation of the TMP. It identifies key audiences for tourism communications, the types of information to share, channels to share these through, and the frequency of these communications. It also identified the expected communication role for Tourism Collingwood, including which audience groups it is likely to focus on. For example, Tourism Collingwood will be speaking mostly to visitors, but it will also be involved in working with tourism businesses on certain initiatives. As a result of this particular initiative, we now have clarity on the who, what, where, when, why, and how of communicating with stakeholders in Collingwood's tourism ecosystem. We also know that by implementing this communications plan, the town and Tourism Collingwood will increase interest and the level of engagement in tourism amongst our diverse stakeholder groups. It is important to note that while this initiative is complete, there is potential for some details to be refined in conversation with Tourism Collingwood. Next slide, please. The co-development and enhancement of tourism product is heavily reliant on clear understandings of the tourism asset base, market readiness, and potential gaps that can be filled. Initiative B1 focused on creating and maintaining an inventory of tangible and intangible local and regional tourism assets to inform both tourism product development investment and tourism marketing opportunities. In addition to conducting secondary research into the asset base, we engaged both community and industry as part of the process. The market readiness review was conducted on a select number of visitor-facing tourism businesses to identify opportunities to support businesses through available resources, tools, and training. Importantly, along with increased clarity around the makeup of tourism assets, this initiative is directly informing the ongoing product development and capacity development initiatives that I'll speak of in a moment. Next slide, please. Towards gathering the information needed to make informed decisions about tourism development, one of the initiatives that we undertook was the identification and filling of gaps in market intelligence through conducting research. More specifically, to be able to make informed decisions about product development and marketing, we know that we needed to establish a baseline of understanding of the specific visitors to Collingwood and determine who the destination should market to in the future. To do this, we worked from existing data sets, such as those provided by Tourism Simcoe County, but we also work with BP Insights to compile new data sets and generate more relevant insights into Collingwood visitation. And this allowed us to create custom groups for Tourism Collingwood and industry to market to. As part of the process, we produced a Visitor Insights report to be used for internal marketing planning purposes and a more accessible public-facing summary report that includes personas for each of the 3 target groups identified for Collingwood. These include countryside and suburban families, affluent families, and urban diverse young families and singles. Next slide, please. Initiative B13, which involves staying on top of relevant tourism research, also involved conducting initial research and developing a system for the town staff to stay in the know of tourism trends and the direction of tourism at the provincial, national, and international levels. Work began on this initiative with a scan of relevant publications, conferences, tourism research, and other sources, including those in our repository of local, regional, provincial, national, and international sources. Through this review, we produced a summary report that identified key organizations for town staff to be aware of and resources they provide. The summary also identifies tourism events to be aware of and to consider for future attendance and participation. As part of this initiative, we attended the Ontario Tourism Summit in October with town staff, where we sat in the most relevant sessions for the town and connected town staff to relevant contexts who were also in attendance. Following the summit, we drafted and shared learning notes, which included opportunities for future collaboration ideas stemming from the information and resources shared. We then moved to developing a system for town staff to stay on top of relevant tourism research, ensure tourism knowledge and information is kept up to date, relevant, and available to others. Finally, we pulled everything we learned from the activities into a summary report that highlights select shareable insights, worthwhile learning resources for partners in industry, and opportunities for the town to consider. Along with increased awareness of what is happening in tourism that is relevant to Collingwood, this initiative is informing 2 others, such as B24, which I'll address in just a moment. Next slide, please. So both B21 and B24 are in progress, with the implementation of these to be completed over the coming months. To provide you with a little bit more detail, the first initiative, B21, involves identifying and assessing tourism product development opportunities, including collaboration opportunities. As part of the process, we're going to be leveraging the outputs produced through the previous initiative, specifically previous research, and conduct basic feasibility assessments of shortlisted opportunities to determine which ones are best bets for the town and who should lead or be involved in their execution. With a compiled list of high potential and high impact tourism investment and collaboration opportunities, we anticipate this work will inform important decisions around what tourism product to develop in the future. We will also be working on B24 towards identifying training topics and opportunities for developing industry capacity. Like the last initiative, we will draw from the insights generated and outputs produced through other initiatives, specifically the tourism trends and market research. We will refer to gaps identified in the asset inventory and market readiness scan as well. Our goal for this last initiative is to narrow down potential areas for capacity development and explore the creation of synergy with partners through the joint delivery of supports. This information will be included in a plan for tourism training that the town and partners can use to guide the same across 2026 and 2027. Last slide, please. A tremendous amount of work has been completed over the past 7-8 months in support of the town's implementation of its tourism master plan, and I've only really been able to highlight things for you today. However, I do want to emphasize the breadth and diversity of outputs that have been co-produced with the town and systems that have been put into place for the town and its partners to be able to continue to grow tourism in a sustainable way in Collingwood. Spanning across the TMP's pillars of progress, which include tourism management, development, and marketing, the pool of tourism knowledge, tools, and resources has increased through our collaboration with the town over the past 7-8 months on these specific initiatives. Valuable outputs have been co-produced, some of which are available to industry and partners, such as the Visitor Insights Summary Report I mentioned a while ago, and the town is well positioned to continue its important work and role in supporting tourism. Thank you for your time today, and I look forward to any questions.
Thank you very much, and I'll just quickly look to staff to see if there was anything to close, or is that, you go right ahead if you'd like, yeah.
Thank the Banneker team as well.
So I will then turn to council and see if anybody has any questions. Doesn't look it. So thank you very much for your presentation, and we look forward to it proceeding and the finished product. So great.
Thank you very much.
Okay, have a good day. The next departmental update will be in regards to a question on the ballot, ward system at large or general election system. And I believe Director Almas has a little bit of a presentation for us in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, Deputy Mayor Fryer. So this presentation outlines the purposes, rules, and implications of placing a question on a municipal ballot with a focus on informed decision-making, transparency, and good governance. To the next slide. What is a question on the ballot? A municipal ballot question, sometimes referred to as referendum question, is a yes/no question placed directly on the municipal election ballot, asking voters to express their view on a specific issue. Questions must be clear, concise, neutral, and multiple choice or multi-part questions are not permitted. The authorization. In Ontario, only municipal council or an upper tier council can authorize a question on a ballot. Questions, residents, advocacy groups, or committees cannot directly force a question on the ballot, but they may petition or lobby council to request one. The Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing does reserve the right to place a question on the ballot. That question may be about any matter. Any person may appeal the wording of the question to the Chief Electoral Officer of Elections Ontario. This appeal may be filed with the municipal clerk within 20 days of the bylaw being passed, and I'll get on into that a little bit further in the next slide. Council must approve the exact wording of the question, pass a formal bylaw authorizing it, and do so before the prescribed election deadline. What can the question be about? Ballot questions must relate to municipal or local public matter within the jurisdiction of the municipality. What's not allowed is questions outside of municipal powers, questions that conflict with provincial or federal law, and vague or misleading questions. Who is allowed to vote on the question? Anyone eligible to vote in a municipal election is eligible to vote on questions, including residents, non-resident property owners or tenants where applicable, and others such as students or those who meet the eligibility requirements. And the rules can be binding. If more than 50% of the eligible voters in a municipality vote on the question, the result is binding on the municipal council. This means if yes receives more than 50% of the votes, the municipality must implement the results of the question in a timely manner. If no receives more than 50% of the votes, the municipality cannot implement the matter in question until 4 years have passed since the voting day. If less than 50% of the eligible voters in the municipality vote on the question, the results are not binding, and council may consider the results, but it is not required to act or not act on whatever the question was about. Regarding the minister's questions, the result of a minister's question can provide advice to the minister or to the government, but the results are not binding. Next slide. Questions on the ballot and the timelines. The following is a review of the timelines based on our current meeting cycle. January 19th, which is today, a motion to consider the question on the ballot. So it is included in the council portion of the meeting, hence why Councillor Baines had to place that notice of motion at the last meeting. Otherwise, notice of motion would have been waived to have it considered today. January 22nd or earlier, notice of a public meeting and bylaw consideration will have to be provided. The public meeting would be held on February the 2nd if council approved the question on the ballot motion today. February 18th, a vote on the bylaw. And then after the bylaw has been passed, a notice has to be sent to the minister by the March 5th deadline. What the minister cannot do, the minister cannot review or edit the wording of municipal questions. They cannot reject a question simply for political reasons. They can't substitute a different question and they cannot require municipalities to obtain pre-approval before passing the bylaw. The minister's role is reactive and not supervisory. A member of the public may also appeal a ballot on a ballot question after council passes a bylaw, placing the question on the ballot within 20 days of that bylaw being passed. Appeals are made to the municipal clerk, so myself, and I must forward them to the Chief Electoral Officer of Elections Ontario, who decides on the appeal. What can be appealed? An appeal can be made only on limited grounds, namely whether the question is clear, is concise, is neutral, is without municipal authority. These are statutory criteria. Example of valid appeal issues are biased or leading language, ambiguity in phrasing, multiple issues bundled into one question, and question deals with a matter outside of municipal jurisdiction. Next slide. The town is required to educate the public on the question. Education, voter education about a ballot question is a shared responsibility, but municipal staff, generally through the clerk, must provide neutral, factual information only. Council and individuals may express personal views, but not use municipal resources to advocate. Candidates, community groups, residents, and the media are also key actors who can help explain, debate, advocate, but not act as third-party advertisers unless appropriately registered. The municipality, through the clerk, is responsible for ensuring that voters have access to the exact wording of the question, information on what a yes or no vote means procedurally, information on whether the result will be binding or advisory, basic context about how and when the question was authorized. Communications is typically done through the municipal website, voter information guides, notice materials, and public reports that are descriptive and not persuasive. Under the Municipal Elections Act, municipal resources cannot be used to support or oppose a ballot question. As with third-party advertising rules, staff communication must be factual, balanced, non-directive, free from opinion or framing that encourages a particular outcome. In practice, clerks are often describe their role as education about process, not persuasion about substance. This does require time and financial resources. Adjustments will be required for the operational plan, and additional funds for communications, ballot and tabulator configuration, including logic and accuracy testing, will be required, which may exceed the current budget. Types of council systems in Ontario. In Ontario, there are three choices should the municipality elect its councillors by general vote, which is normally termed commonly as at large, or wards, or any combination of general vote and wards. A combination of general vote and ward can also be referenced to as a hybrid system. Legal advice was received that identified that if a question was specific about a ward system versus an at-large system, that would eliminate the ability for the future council to impose a combination or hybrid system if the results of that question were binding. And I should explain further what a combination thereof would look like. If council moved to a combination system, the municipality could be broken into whatever number of wards is recommended through the appropriate studies that would have to be undertaken. If Collingwood itself was broken down into 3 wards, you could require that there be 3 members of council elected to represent each of those 3 wards, but you may have 7 members, or you may have 4 members that represent council or the community at large. So there can be a combination of both. Currently, there is no consistency. The Municipal Act 2001 offers no guidance on key questions about electoral systems and how they should be used. Some municipalities with small populations use wards, such as Zora and Georgian Bay, with populations between 2,000 and 8,000, while some municipalities with larger populations, such as Cornwall, Niagara Falls, or Sarnia, with significant populations ranging up to 75,000, do not. A handful use a combined ward and at-large system to elect councillors. An example of this would be Thunder Bay. There's no conventional benchmark such as population or geographic size to apply to indicate whether, when or whether a change from one system to another is appropriate. Now I'll discuss some roles. Council's role. So council's role as a body, council authorizes the question and the wording of the bylaw. Council may direct staff to prepare background or explanatory material. Council cannot use corporate resources to campaign for a yes or no result. Role of council members individually. Individual members may express personal views about a position, speak at public meetings or forums, but must do so on their own time, without municipal resources, and without implying a corporate position. This mirrors Ontario's longstanding principle that elected officials remain political actors, but the municipality itself must remain neutral. A role of a candidate. Candidates play a major role and often overlooked. Their role in ballot question education. They decide whether to include the question in their platforms. They frame the issue during debates, door knocking, campaign materials. For many voters, a candidate's position is their primary source of interpretation. Importantly, candidates are not required to take a position, and inconsistent messaging can be common. Third-party advertisers. In Ontario, a person or organization generally does have to register as a third-party advertiser if they are advocating for or against a municipal ballot question, and they incur advertising expenses. Registration is required if a person or organization is promoting or opposing a yes/no outcome on a ballot and incurs advertising expenses as defined under the Act. An example of such expenses would include signs, ads, boosted social media, flyers. A candidate may legally advocate for a position on a municipal ballot question without registering as a third-party advertiser, as long as they do so within the rules that apply to candidates under the Municipal Elections Act. This is a common and important distinction, and the answer hinges on how the advocacy occurs, not whether the candidate agrees or disagrees with the question. It is legal for a candidate to advocate for or against a ballot question as part of their own campaign without third-party registration. If the advocacy is tied to their candidate campaign and all related costs are reported within their candidate campaign finances. There's no separate advertising campaign is operated outside of the candidate framework. A candidate would not need to register as a third-party advertiser only if they engage in a ballot question advertising that is separate from their candidate campaign, or if they incur expenses outside their candidate campaign that promote or oppose the question. Where candidates could cross the line is a candidate cannot avoid registration if they run a separate ballot question campaign or if they incur expenses outside of the candidate campaign. They can coordinate with an unregistered third party. They cannot coordinate with an unregistered third-party advertiser, for example, directing or funding a group to advertise on their behalf regarding the question. In those cases, either the candidate must register as a third-party advertiser or the activity must stop. And lastly, a question on the ballot is an important tool for understanding community priorities on matters within municipal jurisdictions. It allows voters to express their views directly while maintaining council's responsibility to consider legal requirements, governance practices, and the long-term interests of the municipality. When the result of a question is binding, it provides the benefit of clear democratic direction and certainty for future decision-making. At the same time, it may present challenges by limiting flexibility where complex analysis, implementation considerations, or changing circumstances arise. Questions also result in some additional election administration costs, as previously noted. I hope this information has been beneficial, and I welcome any further questions.
Thank you very much, and an excellent overview in short notice. I'll just explain publicly that the reason this is sitting on our council agenda was notice was given on Friday when we had the opportunity with the special meeting. So that allowed it to proceed right on to the council agenda. And again, to Director Amos and her staff, thank you very much for that overview, because we certainly got a lot of information there that pertains to the item that's coming up later. I will ask if there's anybody on council that would like to speak to anything that they've heard. We do have the item coming up shortly as far as discussing it. So if everybody's okay, is there anything that anybody wanted to cover with Director Amos directly right now? Okay. So we'll move on then, and we'll go to our consent agenda. And I'll also just mention that I'm going to list the items and the recommendation, but I'll just remind everyone that there's a general list of all the correspondence that's received, and it can be viewed on our agenda and meeting page on our website. There's a portal there to bring in if anybody wanted. It generally covers about a 30 to 45 day period of all the correspondence that we received. But the ones that are selected on the agenda today are ones that staff are bringing forward to us, and council has an opportunity to view the list as well and decide if there's something they want to bring forward. But so the recommendation is that council herein receive the general consent agenda, and further that the information and opinions provided in the general consent agenda items are that of the authors and are not verified or approved as being correct. Item 12.1 is property valet, and it's the short-term accommodation program recommendations. 12.2 is the proclamation for Crime Stoppers Month. And 12.3 is George and Bowl regarding development charges. And I'll ask for a mover and seconder, and then ask if anybody wants to poll before we vote. Mover is Councillor Perry, and Councillor Doherty is seconder. And I'll ask if there's anyone that would like to poll. Councillor Potts.
Thanks, Chair. I'd like to poll 12.3, George and Bowl regarding development charges.
Okay. Any others? Doesn't appear to be, so I will turn it to you, Councillor Potts, in regards to, I'll actually just quickly ask, should we vote on, we'll vote on the list first, and then we'll turn to Councillor Potts and allow him to speak to the item. So all those in favor? And that is unanimous. And now go ahead, Councillor Potts.
Thanks, Chair. Just looking at this correspondence coming in, I was hoping to get maybe an overview from staff, especially in wanting to know what the timelines are, to verify the timelines, to see that if when it comes to the development charges and kind of how quick, like was it how long has this process kind of been going on, and when would the owners have been notified as far as these development charges? So I guess that would be my questions.
So I believe through Clerk Amos, Deputy Treasurer Weber is on remotely. Could he join us and maybe give us some information about this particular one, and then Councillor Potts can follow up if he has any other questions.
Good afternoon.
Whenever you're
Council.
ready.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Potts. Director Valentine might have more on the planning side timeline, but in terms of development charges, I was reached out to in November by the developer for an estimate of development charges. As far as I'm aware, this has not gone through the full planning process yet, so at the time it was strictly an estimate, and once it gets through that process, then we'll have finalized development charges, but it's very much still in progress is my understanding.
So I'll check with Director Valentine first to see if she has any comments, and then come back to you if you want to follow up.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We would have to, I'd have to check with my staff to see where in the planning process this particular project is at and get back to you with a timeline.
Would you like to see some information back? Go ahead, Councillor Potts.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And again, so looking at this, when I see that, especially the number that was referenced around the 400,000 plus in the letter coming in, and hearing today that it was just discussed in November and where the process is at, I think something to come back to council would certainly be important here, and then what options potentially there could be given and looking at the way the business in Collingwood is based around recreation and a lot of other great things that it does bring, I would be totally interested to hear what council's options could be in regards to these amounts or moving forward.
Okay, and I'll just turn to Clerk Amos to see if she feels that should be a direction.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Fryer. At this point, I would say I don't know the timeline in research required to gather that information. So at the very least, we can include that as a notice of motion for today. And if you need a motion, can be considered the next meeting, but if it's something that staff can undertake in a quicker manner, that we can provide that update.
So we'll go ahead.
Yeah. So my follow would be, and through you, Chair, would be, so is this a normal, like, so there's been an estimate given. What's that estimate based off of, I guess? And I'm hearing, or I'm hearing different things as far as like, is it premature in the process to be from the owners to be coming forward to say that, you know, this is what we've been given as a number of 400,000 plus, or just where that's at? And again, if that's a notice of motion for later to get that information back, absolutely. But there's obviously been a number of that provided. So just where that would have come from or how that would have been established, even as an estimate at this point.
I'll maybe then just ask Deputy Treasurer Weber then again, is that something that could be answered for Councillor Potts right now? Is that about that number or how firm it is, I guess, for one thing?
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Potts. I can't speak to how firm that number is, because through the planning process, they will determine the exact square meters of the development and pass that along to me. But the developer had proposed 1,078 square meters of non-residential expansion. So the 437,000 of estimated development charges were based upon that number provided.
Follow up.
Just I'll look forward to, if we'll put a notice of motion forward and look forward to an update coming back or a report. Thanks.
Okay, that's great. Anybody on that particular item? No, doesn't look like it. So I'm going to move on to county report. And I did want to just update council because, of course, we had the significant change with recycling effective January 1st. I know I shared through the course of those first few weeks with council the various correspondence we got from Simcoe County staff about they did have some difficulty with the weather, and we told the province that was going to happen if you do it January 1st. But I think generally it's proceeded pretty good in regards to being, it got covered later in the week that those items that, or those bins that couldn't be caught. So of course today is the next round, and we'll see if there's anything there. The weather continues to be a hindrance, I'm sure. But I wanted to let you know that certainly at our county meeting last Tuesday, this topic was a hot topic still. And of course it is because of the change in IC&I. And it is a case of where Simcoe County provided that service, even though it wasn't mandated. They felt they could do it, and we felt we could do it at a reasonable cost to the county, and it was something that needed to be maintained. It's all about the environment. And many of the mayors and deputy mayors talked about the concerns being raised in their local municipalities about how this is really going sideways in regards to nonprofits and other organizations like that, and of course the BIAs and the commercial. And I want to assure you that the county continues to lobby about that and try to make the province province realized that there was service there, and hoping for things to be worked out where maybe some financial incentive can be offered, or some exemptions or those types of things. And we will be following through with it as a county. So I don't think necessarily doing anything as a municipality is going to change anything, because we'll be doing it on a county basis, lobbying hard and continue to lobby. So I knew that it was something that everybody was very keen on understanding, and I wanted to mention it. And then I knew that there'd probably be some questions, so I'm willing to have a discussion about it. So go ahead, Councillor Potts.
Thanks, Chair. I guess this question, so from the taxpayers' perspective, they cover through their taxes would be garbage and recycling to the county, or the county portion of that tax. And is that, if that's correct, then I'm just curious to if the recycling service has been taken away or is not being completed by the county physically, how come the residents and businesses of Collingwood have to pay a fee at the landfill or the site, just simply because obviously there was no there's no rebate or anything given back from the county when the recycling program was removed? And now it just feels almost like and then we hear about cost savings in different places, but it just appears to me that it's still costing the taxpayer more money. So.
And the best I can answer you on that is it does. Treasury let us know that with the recycling being removed, it added $4.2 million to the cost of garbage and organic collection, because it was shared the fixed cost could be shared over the 3 platforms, and now you only have the 2 platforms. And so one of the things that Director McCullough had mentioned was, and he used a rough figure. He said, say it costs $16 million for recycling. 95% of that was recovered from the province. And now any cost of recycling, it's a 5% recovery that we get. So we'd seen, I think Aurelia actually showed where they were seeing a cost savings. And we talked about that at the county, and it could be a case of where Aurelia actually was paying more than they should have been for their service, and now that they're receiving it through the entity, it's lower for them. But the other thing that makes it difficult is, as I said, it wasn't mandated. Simcoe County decided to offer it and make it available, and the costs were acceptable. When it changed to the situation we're in now, the costs are excessive, and therefore they've gone the route of actually having to charge. I think the other difficulty is there's about, the numbers that the staff were able to give us was about 2,100 institutional, commercial, and industrial locations that were doing recycling, but there's about 5,000 ICI out there. So it was less than half of the actual ones out there. So if you tried to introduce something, how do you introduce it? Do you introduce it for everybody when they weren't using it? So you're going to visit all 5,000 locations when you're only picking up from 2,100 coming into this year. So there's a lot of difficulties that are there, and again, I like to see the province step forward and provide exemption to nonprofits and organizations like that. And BIAs maybe would be the route to go, because generally the BIAs were part of that 2,100 in the area, and it would be probably the outer group of the industrial, commercial, and institutional that weren't using it. But the main thing is that it continues to be something that county's lobbying hard about, and we all know that you hope that lobby can be successful before it gets implemented, but we didn't get that. But everyone at the meeting last week was adamant that we had to continue to try to convince the government that those changes need to be had. So, Councillor Jeffrey, you want to say something? Go ahead.
I think very similar and along that vein. I had someone challenge me the other day that they should be getting a rebate on their taxes because they used to get the service and they don't get it anymore. And I tried to explain that that's not a municipal responsibility. It would be from the county perspective, and that it's everybody's taxes went up a significant percentage because of that recycling decision by the province. So if you're looking for a refund or some kind of I don't know what to call it, payback from it's the province. So you should be contacting that you're unhappy with this decision.
The other thing, and I was able to share the link for everybody. The county was able to secure with MTIRA the permit for the multi-residential situation that the county couldn't do the pickup, and the people had been using the service at the depot with free of charge up until the beginning of the year. Now they can apply for a permit through the county portal, and when they have the permit, then when they go, they'll be able to drop off their recycling. And on top of that, the Simcoe County staff at the depot, when people are coming and going to have to pay, they're making sure they inquire to see if that's the situation. So the person may not know about the permit ability. So that's about the only avenue we have for anybody who had been using the service, and they shouldn't have to pay going forward. That's mandated from a residential situation, and those multi-res have that ability to do that. So that's an important aspect too. And Councillor Doherty, go ahead.
Thank you. I wanted to inquire whether the county, in their advocating work, are considering and bringing to the attention of the province the potential impacts on the original objective of the recycling program to become a more circular economy. And my understanding of the multi-res drop-offs and other businesses or residential that are able to drop off at county depots, the recycling providers will pick it up, but they will be allowing it to be commingled with garbage. So at the end of the day, it's going to the landfill. It is not going to be recycled. So I'm just wondering if county are advocating on that level. And the other question I was going to ask was, we do not have unlimited landfill capacity in this county, throughout the province for sure, but in Simcoe County, we are looking actively right now for new landfill facilities because we are already filling up rapidly, and what impacts this is going to have on life expectancy or the future life expectancy of our landfill. And I'm wondering further if the county will keep track of the amount of refuse that's going to landfill so that we can actually quantify the increase that could, or the potential increase as a result of this change in recycling responsibility, and in particular the commingling that will be permitted. Sorry, very long-winded question.
Well, on the first one, or the last one, actually, staff do a very, very good job of monitoring garbage, organic, and recycling. So I fully expect we'll be able to look at those differentials that have happened as of January 1st and do some very good comparable analysis. The idea about co-mingling was brought up, and that's the concern that Director McCullough talked about that day. Was there's some suggestions that, well, the organic trucks going by, maybe they can be collecting, but currently Miller uses both sides of the for organic pickup. But on top of that, there's a concern that if you were picking up recycling on one side and organic on the other, there could be contamination. And then you lose the ability to have the organics go to the proper spot rather than having to put it all into the garbage. So that is definitely a concern. And I think just overall, the county is going to be advocating strongly with the ministry that without question, at this point in time, we can only see more illegal dumping, more litter, or more recycling being intermixed with garbage. And so how do we make this better? And because again, we talked about how this is all about the environment, and Simcoe County has a very, very rich history of excellent results with their programs. And we want that to continue. But more importantly, we want it to be ingrained in the public that the sense that this is the right way to do things. So Councillor Potts, I didn't ask you if you had a follow-up after, so Councillor Ring or Perry, and I'm going to turn to Councillor Baines then. Okay.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Hot off the press, if you will, from Roma this morning, just following up on this specific topic. 27% of Ontario's waste is exported, 90% of that to Michigan. And they are charging, at least according to the experts in the field, abnormally cheaper rates than than is efficient to process compared to other alternatives. That Ontario will be out of waste dumps, if you will, facilities in 2037. That 30% of garbage that 30% of the garbage coming in the waste stream has organics in it. Very troubling statistics all the way around. I'm sorry, it doesn't relate specifically to Simcoe County, but it is concerning information. Thank you.
What I would add about Simcoe County in regards to our situation with landfills, quite right that it is very, very quickly being depleted. But we were able to secure a very long-term contract, and it actually is not going out of province. It's I think in the Brampton area, but don't hold me to that. But I'm pretty sure it's in that kind of an area, and it's a 30-year agreement. That's where the bulk of the refuse from our locations like Collingwood's, its capacities, but we still allow it to be have the dumping that it always has had, and then the trucks come in and pick up what needs to be hauled out, and so that goes to that location. And as I said, it's a very long-term contract that I know council was quite pleased with the overall cost of it when we did that. And I'm going to say that was about a year and a half ago we locked that down, if I remember correctly. So Councillor Jeffrey, did you want to add something?
Well, just an additional question, because it was brought up to me at a Keep Collingwood Clean event. They were asking me about the incineration, and my understanding is that our garbage is being incinerated in Brampton. Is that what you're referring to?
There is. I'm not going to say all of it is, because I don't know that for certain, but there definitely is incineration within the agreement. Yes.
Thank you, because I also remember asking the question of Mr. McCulloch of the county why we weren't incinerating Simcoe County garbage, and we didn't have enough volume. There's a specific volume you have to have for the incineration. So, yeah. So I'm happy. I was happy to hear, but I had to hear it through Keep Collingwood Clean that it was actually being incinerated in Brampton. So.
And what you're talking about there is if we had our own incineration situation, and that was looked at extensively, but the quantity that you need to run through. So we looked at, well, could we operate as a center that brings in garbage and do it? But in the end, it was felt that that would just be too big of an operation, and so we've gone to the long-term agreement of taking it to the larger situation that it will be doing those types of things. So Executive Director does want to add something, so I'll turn to her.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate you providing the update on the work that the county is doing regarding the recycling transition. One thing I wanted to note from a staff perspective is we understand following that county council meeting that General Manager Rob Elliott will be preparing a staff report to county council outlining some of the challenges that the member municipalities are facing with potential opportunities to address those through the county in the future for county council consideration. I just wanted to let council know that staff have plugged into that process. We've pulled information from Service Collingwood to see what concerns we're receiving from our residents. We've also reached out to Economic Development to hear any comments or concerns that they've received, and Manager Sharma has provided some information there. And then certainly I've been taking notes of some of the comments that councillors have made this afternoon, and we'll take that into consideration when we're providing that feedback. So I just wanted you to know that we're aware of that process and are plugging into it.
And that's totally correct. And as you would expect with any major change, staff's going to come back at the county level and report, and they're going to go to our municipal staff. But what stands out is the very first council meeting in January, and it just happened just weeks before, they've asked for an update. So staff are working to keep us up to date on things as they are happening. And it's not something that can sit and wait for 6 months and say, okay, well, now let's look at it. We're going to try to be on top of it as best we can. So is there anything further on recycling that anybody would like to ask about? And I'll just mention as well, I was kind of thinking it might get some media attention, but I hadn't seen anything yet. There was an item brought up by one of the municipalities, and or I guess they're county councillors from a municipality, and it's talking to the indication from the province about the possibility of looking at municipal service corporations in regards to water and wastewater from a regional standpoint. And we had a good discussion about it as well last week. And that's an example of one that we talked about that we didn't move on because we feel that right now the province is going through what they're doing with Peel, and they've put a public utilities act together about Peel. So it was pointed out that that's not really a municipal services corporation. And Mayor Dolan from Innisfil shared quite a bit of her insight about this because, of course, they do have an MSC in services in Innisfil, and the general agreement by everyone was we need to see how this comes along, right, before we ever start to look at it and be trying to discern things in regards to a Simcoe County situation. So I'm just mentioning it because, as I said, sometimes a story will pop up and you'll be wondering about it. And if it did, generally in that case, it was okay, this is on our radar, but we're not necessarily going to do anything about it at this point in time, and we'll see how things play out for the Peel situation. So those were the two items that I wanted to update in regards to county, and unless anybody had any other county item that they wanted me to speak to. Okay, so then we'll move off of that, and we'll go to our motions and. We do have the motion for the question on the ballot, ward versus at-large general vote election. And I'm going to turn to Councillor Baines so he can read in the motion, and then we'll look for a seconder.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Whereas the community-based strategic plan identifies the pillar responsible with a goal to promote healthy local democracy, with a key action to review the governance and structure of town council to encourage more people to run for elected office and encourage greater diversity in all of its forms on council. And whereas council has the ability to include a question on the upcoming municipal election ballot through a prescribed process to obtain voter interest to proceed with such a change. Therefore, be it resolved that council support the following preferred question on the ballot of the 2026 municipal election. Do you support exploring the options to change to a ward system based on defined geographic areas and/or a hybrid ward / at-large system for the future election? And that council direct the clerk to provide the requisite notice and schedule a public meeting regarding council's intention to pass a bylaw to add a question on the ballot.
And I'll look to see a seconder. Councillor Doherty is seconding.
Yeah.
And I'll ask then Councillor Baines if you want to speak first or last.
I think I'll speak first, if I can. It's evident that Collingwood is growing, and as such, it's a natural question that are we adequately representing all of the citizens in all of our growing communities? You'll notice that Haldimand County has already approved a new 7-ward model in February of last year, and that councils of Wasaga Beach, Thorold, and North Bay are similarly proceeding with discussions of this on the ballot box coming up in 2026. It also aligns, as the clerk, and I must give great credit to the clerk for all of her advice in this. As a result of this, I somewhat modified it from initially just focusing on a ward to being more general to explore other options, if you will, and I thank her for that. This aligns with our Collingwood's community-based strategic plan in doing this, if you will, a timely review of our governance. So therefore, I think it's appropriate to bring this forward, to have this discussion with our community as to whether or not this adequately suits what their desires are at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Potts, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. On this motion, I do not support it for many reasons. The one being the fact when you see public meetings and stuff, I just think right now it's not the best use of staff resources and timing, and there'd be a lot of costs I think that would be involved in looking into this. I mean, so I guess I'll leave the rest of my comments because I'm not really sure how within my boundaries of what I can really get into talking about, but I don't support this motion. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Doherty and then Councillor Ring after that.
Thank you. I have a question through to our mover, actually, and then I have a number of comments. And so I want to be clear that the motion is to review the governance and structure.
Correct.
So, sorry, the motion is to, where is it? Do you support exploring the options? So all this ballot question would be basically to direct council and staff to explore it such that it would either be implemented at the next election, which would be 2030, or not.
Correct.
That's a question for Councillor Baines.
Councillor Baines and or Clerk Almas.
I'll go to Councillor Baines first.
I would say correct, but I'll let the clerk respond. I think she's more expert in this.
Thank you through the chair. To address the question, that is correct. It's worded now with the ability for if it becomes binding, that it provides some flexibility for the next council in exploring it, and whatever comes of it, then that council will still have the decision on what to do and moving forward. This would basically be gauging the public's interest on whether they want to explore going to a ward or a hybrid approach, but not make it binding that the next council would have to.
And follow up.
Yes, thank you. I initially was not going to support this motion, but understanding that this does not bind the next council necessarily, I am more open to it. I certainly will listen to the comments of my colleagues. But speaking for myself, I think that this is a very actually complex question in terms of the pros and the cons of changing to a ward system. And, I would want to know that our residents understand, councillors and prospective candidates understand very clearly what they would be getting into should they decide to change from an at-large system like we have right now to ward. But because this question would only be directing the municipality to investigate further, I would be open to supporting it. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Ring and then Councillor Jeffrey and then Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Pryor. I'm not going to support the motion, regardless of whether it's just asked to explore. That's one of the reasons why I'm not going to support it. Is I don't see a big demand from the public. I know I've never received a question on whether we should do this or we shouldn't do that. And to spend more time with staff investigating, setting up public meetings, time from the things they could be doing, I just don't think it's worth it at this point. One way or the other, I'm not going to support it if we get to the motion, because I don't think Cullen is big enough for the board system. And I've got a whole list of things here that I was going to say, but I don't have to, I guess. But I'm just going to let you know that I'm not supporting this. And for the biggest reason is the way it's worded. It's not really achieving anything but putting more work on staff to come back to us on a, as far as I'm concerned, a topic that doesn't seem to be a big issue. I know there's a lot more people since this question came out and knew it was going to be on the agenda. I've got a lot more calls from people that don't want it. So, I mean, the demand doesn't seem to be there. So I just don't think we should be spending staff time on investigating something that isn't needed right now. That doesn't mean the next council's got lots of time to put it in before the next election. So if the need is there, but at this point, I can't see spending a whole lot of time on it. So for that reason, I'm not going to support this motion.
So thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I think this has been a good education as to the process and the potential for questions for us or for councils to be able to implement going forward. But we have other avenues to get this information, and we don't have to create an expensive question on the ballot to get the answers. We have a governance review process that council can bring and invite public input on. And I'm really concerned that our residents aren't educated as much as they need to be on the pros and cons that Councillor Doherty referred to, and on the implications of this. And when we have new residents that come in that are used to a ward system, I say to them, I'd rather have 9 people accountable to me than just 1. I think you're getting a much better system here, and they always appreciate that. And then you educate them on how to pursue their questions, service Collingwood and whatnot. But I think if you look, I just heard today, and I read about it in the media a little bit, that Orillia is conversely looking at going from wards back to at large. And it is inconsistent, as our clerk has referred to us. So I'll be voting against this because not because I don't think we want to hear from the public on it. I think very much we want to, but I also think that we had 4 years that we could have been addressing this as a council within the governance structure if Councillor Baines had wished to bring it forward. I just feel that this is a really last minute thing, and maybe all of us should have been considering the questions we might like to have asked, especially if you can be bound by them through the process. So that's so I won't be supporting it, but I will be supporting wherever I can, always best governance review and public input for our process.
Councillor Perry?
Thank you, Chair. And this is a question perhaps for the clerk, that I remember one line in your presentation was that if it's more than 50%, it's binding. So that's a big concern of mine. So this, perhaps down the road, 25, 30 years from now, this system may be a good fit for Collingwood, perhaps. But in my belief, not right now, but the problem is if it gets more than a 50% yes vote, we may be getting into something that I feel we're not quite there yet. Is that an accurate comment or question?
I'm going to let Clerk Thomas just add to your comment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. Just to, if the question came back and it was binding and it was specific to moving to a ward system, it's not in place indefinitely. It would have to be imposed for the next election, but then the following council could make a change to revert back, but it would definitely have to have the one council term with it in place.
Follow up.
Okay, thanks. So I'm just gonna right now. I'm not going to support this.
I'm just going to make a couple of comments, and I am going to let everybody go a second time. I think that's a very important thing to have a discussion about, and that's one of the concerns I had was the fact that it's going to be, and the fact that I think typically if I knew that it was going to be something that could bind the next council, I'd actually want to have the study done already about what is being recommended as to exactly what the wards are going to be. So you weren't just saying to council, oh, we got this question on the ballot and it's produced this answer, and now you need to do a study. We don't know what this outcome of that study will be. It may be similar to what's being brought forward in other governance reviews and things like that. So that was one concern I had. I had the same concern as Councillor Jeffrey in regards to, I just don't see there being enough time. To me, this should have been something that was brought forward some months back. We did the governance review some months back, and as everybody knows, I did put my motion on the floor that that was defeated. But every council will do a governance review of some sort. In our case, ours got delayed, and for good reason, because we were waiting on the decision by county council of the structure of county council. But on top of that, we had strong mayor powers introduced or imposed on us partway through our term. So I believe we would have done the governance review sooner, and maybe that because of that, some of this stuff would have come out sooner. But now we're into that situation where I look at the fact that our clerk's services, they have their operation plan already approved for 2026. And we just approved budget, and I see impacts on both of those if moving forward. So at this point in time, I'm stating as well that I'm not planning on supporting. So I am going to allow a second round if anybody wants to. So I'm going to ask Councillor Potts first, and then turn to Councillor Doherty.
Thank you, Chair. And I wouldn't be adding further comments, except I'm commenting based on what I've heard from my colleagues. And I'm turning to the clerk again. From what I'm hearing from my colleagues, there's a general understanding that if this vote takes place, and if there were more than 50% support, that we would be converting to a ward system. But again, the motion is actually just to explore it so that the next council could still take into account all of staff's investigations and their own investigations and further feedback from the public and make another decision during the next term of council. So am I, again, just wanted to confirm that I'm understanding this correctly.
I think your comment's correct. I don't think, unless Clerk Lamas wants to add anything, I'd say I think your comment's correct, and so if that's what you're looking for, I think that's the case. But if that's all you had, then I'll turn to Councillor Jeff.
No, it isn't actually. I just had
there.
no. I just have one other follow up. And that is how much, is there a great deal of work that would be necessary, Clerk Almas, in advance of having this item on the ballot? Like, does the bulk of staff's effort occur after the vote or before it? So in these months leading up to the election.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Doherty. Right now, based on the financial impacts, we've had a brief conversation internally and what that would look like with the additional communications, and obviously the concerns of, providing factual information and not being biased, even in terminology of, pros and cons of each side, you'd have to be very cautious on how you're wording it so you're still not being persuasive to a ward or at-large system or a hybrid system for that fact. But as for the additional work, it was included in the 2025 budget, $50,000, because clerk services would have to work closely with a consultant or used for ward at-large reviews. I think it could be less amount of money to explore whether it's a good choice for Collingwood, where the extra money in public consultation, well, there's public consultation in both phases, but is when you get down to looking at geographic boundaries of a ward, that requires a lot more work. So it could be initially less than the 50,000 up front. If there's a recommendation to consider a ward or hybrid, then additional costs would be involved because you'd have to go through that. There's a lot of planning components to it, looking at future forecasts, because you don't want to set up boundaries and ward boundaries and then go back in the future and change them for your next election. So there's pieces like that. But again, mostly consultant work, but there would be planning staff resources, development staff resources, clerk staff resources, communication resources that would be used to facilitate that.
Thank you.
So you wind up?
Yeah, so if that is the case, I don't think I will be supporting this motion because it seems to me that there is going to be as much question of staff and of candidates as to the implications of converting to a ward system as if we had actually agreed that we were going to pursue it. So again, I think we need a year to really consider it and then be fully prepared to deal with it again the next municipal election.
Councillor Ring, did you want to do some more follow-up? Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I got to actually comment and then and I would like to maybe ask the question of the clerk, if that's fine. My comment is listen to other people here. I don't want to give the impression that I don't think that we should listen to the public. I'm just saying I don't think it's necessary at this time because I haven't heard of the demand. I think whatever we do, you always got to go to the public. I mean, as we said, we got to have good governance, and our governance review, we should go to the public when we're going to ask questions like that, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to be voting for it or against it. So, but no, and I just don't think that it seems like there's going to be a lot of work and time and money, as I said before, that's maybe not necessary. We do still have time to do it before, not this election, but before the date of this wouldn't have come in effect till 2030 anyways, right? But my question is more on the procedure, and I'm just wondering through you, Deputy Fryer, to Clerk Olmos, is this motion is it out of order? Not out of order. Is it correct wording? Because when I read the last. Therefore be resolved that council support the following preferred question on the ballot for the 2026 municipal elections. And it says, obviously what it says, do you support exploring options to change to a ward system based on defined geographic areas and or a hybrid ward at large system for the future election? We're given two options there. I thought it had to be a yes or no, a question with only a yes or no answer. You can't answer that question with yes or no because you're given two options to make a choice, because you could either do them both or you could pick one of them. So I don't think that should be dealt with right now. Should it?
I'm going to turn to Clerk Olmos. I think it's because of the fact that you could have both anyway, right? But go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. That's a very valid question. We actually asked legal the same thing, just to make sure. So it's yes, how it's worded is to be able to look at whether we could move to either a ward or a combination thereof. So, and the answer would be a yes or no that we would provide. So the concern that you still could get hung up with on here is you could have someone that would support a combination, a hybrid approach, but then they may not support a ward. So they'll automatically say no. So that's something that you would have to be cognizant about.
And I think that's Councillor Ring's point. Yeah, go ahead.
That was my point. But the word or is what's bothering me there, because that's giving you a choice. That's not saying this is saying because it says it's on a specific time being on the ballot for the 2026 municipal election. That's what I was going to say. When you're doing that, I know you could have the choice. You could have a combination. You could have a lot of things. But I always thought the question had to be only answered by yes or no, and that, to me, question can't be answered by yes or no.
Good point. Councillor Perry, did you have anything further you want to? Okay. Okay. Yeah, I was going to finish, and then I'll turn to Councillor Baines as a right to reply. You go ahead, Councillor.
Sorry, just something else. In terms of the thing that is tweaking the question here is the following preferred question. In the process through you to the clerk, would it be, I think you gave us options. Were there questions that you wanted to ask? But it might be worthwhile for a future council to have a session. If there were questions, what would they be? And we would need to know now to develop the education to ask them. But for me, this wouldn't even be a preferred question, because if I were going to go to the trouble of doing all this, there's probably some others I would probably ask first. So I wouldn't even agree with the word preferred.
Okay, I think I'll just comment and then I'm going to turn to Councillor Baines for his right to reply. As I mentioned, we've done governance work as every council should. Unfortunately, it was delayed and it needed to be delayed. And I continue to have the concern. I was going to mention this under county, but I think I'll mention it now. It certainly appears imminent that there's going to be no decision come down from the province or the Heritage Committee that was doing the review of Simcoe County's governance structure before the election. I can't see that happening. So a concern I've had right from the beginning was the change in compensation, because I think it's really changing the dynamic of the situation for smaller municipalities like ourselves. We're going to have, going into next election, the mayor's position will be making in the order of between $115,000 and $120,000 as compensation. The deputy mayor position will be closer to $85,000. When this term started, it was more in the range of $55,000. And when you compare it to the councillor's salary, that's a significant differential between deputy mayor and councillor. And I talked about that when I looked at suggestions about downsizing as one of the reasons being to try to figure out how we can get our compensation for our councillors up. And I know everybody does share the opinion that the councillors' compensation is not sufficient, but in any event, it's in regards to this particular motion, I'm not supportive of it. I will turn to Councillor Baines and let him reply, and then determine if, I guess, Councillor Baines, if you think you have to change the wording to address some of these things, or whether you're going to leave it the same.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. No, I think I'll leave it the same. I thank my colleagues for their comments. Some of them are very good. It's unfortunate, it would seem in hindsight, that the way circumstances have unfolded, i.e., as the Deputy Mayor pointed out rightly so, that because of the delay in the discussion about county, etc., and frankly, the removal of the $50,000 from the 2026 budget, it makes it very challenging at this point to engage in this process. I would only hope that as a result of this discussion, that the next council will still carry the mantle forward and have such a full and frank review, if you will, with the electorate themselves about these various options. Having said that, I still support this motion, so I will vote in favor of it, of course. Thank you.
Okay, I'm prepared to call the matter then to a vote. All those in favor? And all opposed? And that is defeated. Okay, so moving on then, we will move into Committee of the Whole. And I have a motion here that council herein move into Committee of the Whole session, and look for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Perry and Councillor Doherty. And all those in favor? And that's unanimous. Chair Perry, 10 minutes? Okay. And then we'll reconvene.
start off with staff reports. That sounds better. And item 15.2.1, C 2026-01, updated use of corporate resources and election campaign activities policy. And I'll turn it over to Clerk Almus.
Thank you, Chair Perry, and I will introduce Deputy Clerk Dahl to provide the overview regarding this policy and the background to when it was in place before, noting that we do have a number of elections working groups, that we have one within the county and we have a provincial election working group, and reviewing our policies is something that is recommended for every election term or prior to the election becoming into full force.
All right, thank
Deputy
you.
Clerk.
Good afternoon, Council. Today I'm presenting you with an updated use of corporate resources and election campaign activities policy. And to provide you with some background to the purpose of this policy, the Municipal Elections Act provides rules and regulations governing the financing of municipal election campaigns in Ontario and prohibits municipalities from making any contribution to a candidate running in a municipal election or an individual, corporation, or trade union registered to support or oppose a candidate or question on the ballot. In 2018, Bill 181, the Municipal Elections Modernization Act, introduced changes to the Municipal Elections Act, with one of the requirements being to establish rules and procedures with respect to the use of municipal resources during a campaign period. So prior to the 2018 municipal and school board election, Council adopted the use of corporate resources and election campaign activities policy, which continued to be in effect for the 2022 municipal election. The purpose of this rule document is to provide provisions regarding campaign contributions, whether in the form of money, goods, and services that are specific to the use of municipal resources for election-related purposes. In reviewing the policy in preparation for the 2026 election, recommended updates to the policy include the following: an updated purpose statement to better reflect the intent of the Act in terms of campaign contributions and policy requirements, enhanced protocols on the use of social media channels and websites during the election as the use of social media is becoming stronger every day. Additions include a clear division of a website or social media account that is completely separate from a campaign, and a municipal council member's account that would highlight initiatives in their duty as a municipal council member currently. How a campaign can be, or how a candidate can access information held by a municipality during the election period to ensure there is no unfair advantage or privilege from those currently on council or candidates that may have connections with staff or other town resources or sat on council in the past and have access to records from their term they previously served on. Procedures in this regard are detailed in the Clerk's Election Procedures Manual, which we're currently finalizing for the election. And further clarification, this would include, but not be limited to, any in-camera or confidential information a member of council may have privilege to that is not available to the public, or records that were not surrendered by past members that they could be still in their possession that were not readily available to the public as well. Staff will also be creating a procedure in this regard to ensure records held by a member are surrendered to the clerk at the end of their term if they are not returning to council. Provisions were added to address how the policy applies to candidates running for other levels of government, such as for federal and provincial positions that currently sit on council, to ensure municipal resources are not being used for their provincial or federal campaigns. And this could be any kind of municipal resource, such as their laptops that are issued as a council member, cell phones, printing materials, anything of that sort. Defined roles and responsibilities specific to the administration of the policy were added to provide clarity on education, monitoring, and compliance to the policy to those affected. This was done informally in past elections through the clerk's office. This is to put it on paper so everyone understands and has a clear idea of what enforcement measures can be taken. To clarify the delegated authority of the clerk, the definition will be amended to read more clearly when this comes forward to council, to state the clerk means the clerk of the town of Collingwood or their designate specifically to a legislative services employee that has been designated as a deputy returning officer or election official. Furthermore, the previous policy did not speak to the enforcement or compliance measures that can be taken should an individual breach the provisions of the policy. To ensure there is a clear understanding on how the policy can be enforced, provisions have been added to the policy that include how to submit a complaint, the ability to contact the Integrity Commissioner should someone feel a current member has contravened the Code of Conduct with respect to the use of resources, or to report any complaints to the Compliance Audit Committee, which would not occur until after the close of the election. In reviewing a number of policies from other municipalities amongst our peer groups and with our local our town solicitor, the legislation does not provide for other enforcement mechanisms other than filing a court application, which would also supersede the campaign period, or a potential complaint to the Office of the Ombudsman outside of the Integrity Commissioner and Compliance Audit Committee processes. The Integrity Commissioner would only come into play should a current member of council breach the code of conduct in regard to the use of corporate resources during the election period. In general, any member of the public can contact our Integrity Commissioner should they have concern with the council member's behavior while serving on their term. Definitions were added to better distinguish between campaign and campaign contributions, providing more clarity between these two terms. And lastly, the format of the policy was updated to align with our new rules document framework and templates. Further changes were made to remove existing provisions of the policy, which include item 4.I8, and this speaks to the use of services that are contracted by the town as a third party. This could exclude the ability for candidates to utilize a local service provider, such as a printer, content creator, advertiser, local auditor to assist them with their campaign. And the second omission is item 8.1B that speaks to the submission of written materials to an agenda or to make statements at a council meeting, as this is not realistic and would be very difficult to enforce. I would also like to emphasize that this policy is not to preclude a member of council from performing their duties as a council member and not prohibit them from representing the interests of the constituents who elected them. All proposed changes are highlighted in the policy provided in Appendix A of the staff report, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Thank you, Deputy Clerk. I will turn to the gallery, which I don't see anybody. Clerk, anyone online? Nobody online. So I'll read in the recommendation that staff report C 2026-01, updated use of corporate resources and election campaign activities policy be received, and that council approve the updated use of corporate resources and election campaign activities policy as attached hereto as Appendix A. Can I have a mover? Councillor Doherty, seconded Deputy Mayor, and I'll turn it to the floor for questions. Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I want to thank the clerk and deputy clerk for answering a lot of questions that I had asked them, and probably have shortened what I need to ask. I guess my main question was I had wondered what had changed between 2018 and 2022 to 2026 that warranted the changes, but I think they've explained that they're basically putting in writing what they were doing before, but now it's making transparent. And I think my other question was how overwhelming or onerous on staff was this, and they've already been doing it, so it's already been onerous, so we're not making it any more onerous by doing that. So, and the other focus of my attention was the changes creating unenforceable situations or events. And I mean, it's really clear that, you know, we often talk about why would we create bylaws if we can't enforce them? So making rules we can't enforce. It's just setting out the rules and hoping everybody abides by them, I guess, setting our standards. But I think staff answered that question in terms of under the Municipal Elections Act, we don't have any recourse for being punitive or enforcing what we're asking under this bylaw. And then they answered my other question was with pulling 4.8, pulling the contractors out. I couldn't understand because I thought, well, we're adding all these other things to be super tight with the rules. Why would we pull the contractors out? But the explanation that we were already using them in printing our signs and our brochures, whatever. I don't know whether town hall used those particular ones that I used or not, but there's not that many. So it's probably highly probable we were. And then I did ask about a small amendment in 12.3, just to move up the words not available to information to attach information not available to the public sooner in that section, because I think you had to read right to the very end before you understood that we were trying to say that it just had to be information that wasn't available to the public ever. And I did have a little bit of input on 14.2 with respect to senior staff or department heads being put in a position of having to determine a staff member's activity or being approached by an incumbent in their roles or their duties. But I kind of think it puts the department head at risk if it doesn't come to the clerk ever that they made a decision on an election process and a rule we set, but the clerk or the legislative people didn't make that decision. So I still have a little bit of a concern with that part. Section 16, I think the definition of designate has been more clearly defined for me, so I'm okay with that. And then 14.4, you know, incumbents, as an incumbent candidate, you can start to feel like a bit of a target with this from other members on council, whether they're running again as an incumbent or whether they're not, in using the rules around the table kind of against you. So I did have a bit of a concern with that, but they are what they are, and we're pretty used to dealing with that, I guess. But I would say that after hearing my other colleagues, I would like to ask that this be referred back to the next committee of the whole meeting so we can see an updated redlined version after all of our inputs today, and then get it to the next council meeting. And I did ask after that, and I asked the clerk and the deputy clerk if that would interfere with their timing, and they assured me that that would not. So, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Clerk Almus.
Certainly, and my apologies. In the presentation, it probably would be an appropriate to have an amendment to update the definition relating to the clerk's designate. So if you want to make that motion, I think we probably should.
Okay.
Just to be safe, that would be appreciated.
Mr. Chair, would you like the amendments as we go, or do you just want them all at the end knowing you're going to get them, or it might be better to do them so we know they're there?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have to find that wording. So the amendment for the definition would be,
That's easy.
if you have it right there, I'm just looking through the responses here. That'd be great. Thank you.
Certainly. So we can update the definition relating to clerk. So clerk would mean that the clerk of the town of Collingwood or their designate, which shall be a legislative services employee that has been appointed as a deputy returning officer or election official for the purposes of this policy.
Okay. Second, yeah, Deputy Mayor. Are we going to vote on that?
Yeah.
Where is that? Okay. So all those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Okay. Questions or comments? Any other? No? Wow. Okay. All right. Well, I'll bring the recommendation to a vote as amended. Oh, okay. Okay. Go ahead.
Because I do know I received a lot of the answers today from the clerk and the deputy clerk with respect to the changes. I'd just like to see one more redlined version at the next committee of the whole in case there's anything else. And then the next council, we can approve it.
Okay.
So just need a second.
Okay, seconder on that, Councillor Potts. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Are we good? Awesome. Okay, so okay. All right. Okay, we're good. All right, item 15.3, deputations. Any? No? Okay. Item 15.4, reports and minutes of other committees and boards. The recommendation that the following minutes of other committees and boards be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved. Minutes, Collingwood Downtown BIA Board of Management, November 13th, 2025. The minutes of the Downtown Collingwood BIA Board of Management, December 11th, 2025, and the minutes of the Collingwood Heritage Committee, December 4th, 2025. Can I have a mover? Councillor Ring, seconded. Councillor Doherty. Question, comments? Yes.
Thanks, Chair Perry. I just wanted to reference some comments at this time, just from the BIA minutes. I had some correspondence earlier today from a fellow councillor, and I thought I would just address the answer here. So in regards to the boards, or the BIA board's position on the location of the Arts Centre, there was in the November 13th minutes, under 6.3, Rick Lex had provided a deputation to the BIA in regards to many different things relating to the Arts Centre and discussions about how the stakeholders within the realm were looking, with 300 seat theaters, and that was kind of the in favor stuff, and it's all within the minutes there, so it's all worded there. But also wanted to request that and to discuss with the BIA that it was perceived that the position may have been that they weren't in support of an Arts Centre within the downtown, and the BIA, ultimately is in support, given the past. And in our discussions at the meeting it's just any of the options that have been presented, would impact significantly the parking and some other areas of impact that until there was a fulsome parking study or a lot of things that to be completed and to know kind of what the future looked like. That's kind of where it potentially could have been perceived that they weren't in support, but they do want to reiterate their commitment and their support that for a arts and center down in the downtown area. And I think the biggest discussion would be the size, 300 versus 600. So just wanted to put that out there. And if any other members of the council have any questions, I'm happy to assist.
Okay, great. Thanks, Councillor Potts. Any other questions, Deputy Mayor?
And Chair, it's not on that particular one. I wanted to mention about the heritage. So if there was anybody, I'm just letting you know that I was going to.
Anyone else want to comment on Councillor Potts' comments or what he was talking about? Go ahead, Councillor Doherty.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very appreciative of Councillor Potts' comments and also very happy to hear it. And I do have one that I want to pull as well, same one as the Deputy Mayor of the Heritage.
Okay. All right. I think we're good now. Deputy Mayor.
And we may have some like thought, I don't know. But I wanted to recognize that in the minutes from December the 4th, it talks about Margaret Mui coming off of the Heritage Committee. She was the Architectural Conservative of Ontario rep, and unfortunately, the ARO has closed after 18 years. So I wanted to mention that because Margaret's been an integral part of the Heritage Committee for multiple decades. I don't know exactly how many years, but I know it's multiple decades. And it mentions about the fact that in February, I believe it is, we'll get a presentation, as we always do, about the annual kind of overview by the Heritage Committee of their work. And Chair Jeffries is coming. So I was just going to make a suggestion through you to the staff, if they could, maybe inquire as to maybe Margaret could attend that day, and council would have a chance to recognize her in a formal way, because a lot of the reason we have the heritage we have in this community is because of Margaret Mooy. So, Councillor Doherty, I think wants.
Councillor Doherty.
Ditto. Margaret has done an upstanding job over the years that she has been involved with the Heritage Committee, and before that on ACO. I don't think that there's anyone in town, I could argue, that it's more passionate about heritage than she is, and she will be missed on the board. ACO will be missed in this community, and I hope that someday there may be a group of volunteers that might be interested in resurrecting that organization. Thanks.
Great. Well said. Thank you. Can I ask the clerk if... Okay, that's great. That'll be wonderful. Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments on the minutes? So all those in favor? And that's unanimous. On to item 15.5, older deferred business. No, nothing. Item 15.6.1, other business. Elections of the chair and vice chair, committee of the whole, and I'll turn this to Clerk Almas. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, did you have any older deferred? I'm sorry. I didn't see your card.
Chair, no, actually, it wasn't older deferred. It was to ask for your deference to add another item to other business.
Okay, we can add another item. Sure. Do you want to do this first before we do the elections?
Probably be best, yeah. So, the only reason why the notice is so short is it's just following up on an email that I received today, actually all of council did, regarding an inquiry about location of bus stops over in the area of the Y and so on. And that has, that's sort of followed up on a number of emails that we have received from residents recently, either with regard to accessible transit or transit routes or location of bus stops or on demand. So I was wondering through you if I could inquire of Director Alcoca, will we be doing a fulsome review of our transit system soon? Thank you.
Director Alcoca.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, we are coming in front of council in 2 weeks to present an update on the transit system. So I hope to answer most of these questions, if not all, at that time.
Perfect. Thank you.
Wonderful. Very timely. Councillor Jeffrey?
Yeah, just on that exact, I did receive an email today, and I did respond that our protocol was when all of council was copied that the mayor would respond and that I would monitor for that response, but also suggested they go to service at collingwood.ca to get it to staff sooner. So because my question was is if there's no more bus stop transit and it's on demand, can they get picked up somewhere else, and why would it be a problem or a gap if we're on demand at other areas? But I referred them to service column because I thought that was the best way to get them to the answers as opposed to waiting for the mayor on our protocol.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other comments on that? No? Okay, I'll turn it to Clerk Almas now.
Thank you, Chair Perry. We can go through the entire election review process. I'll just follow up with council further to my request that I had sent out last week. Currently have 2 nominations. And again, this is for the position of chair and a vice chair for the committee of the whole portion of our meetings. And right now we have a nomination from Councillor Bain for the position of chair for Councillor Baines and the position of vice chair from Councillor McCulloch. And I can go through the nomination process if there's further nominations that are going to be had at the floor. If not, these 2 individuals would be acclaimed. So I will leave it up to the committee's discretion if you would like to go through the process.
Councillor Ring?
Since this is the last one, just thought I'd like to spice it up a little bit, maybe have an election. So I'd like to nominate Deputy Mayor Fryer for the chairmanship.
Councillor Potts?
Thanks. Could I just ask a question? So this goes until July?
Yes.
So what happens for the remaining 5 months? Or like how does that play out until the next election?
I believe we have it in place for that remaining period as well. I don't think it changes to go back to just the mayor and the deputy mayor for both. So there would be an election.
So there would be another, but it would be a shorter window of time.
Correct.
But 3 months or 2 months-ish.
Yeah. Okay. No, I just clear because I thought maybe, okay, I will say yes. Thank you.
Why are you putting your name in for the next one?
No,
Okay.
no, I'm not. I just wanted clarification because I didn't know how it worked and especially when it comes into kind of that window of lame duck and how everything else goes on in the world in politics and elections and stuff like that, that it was something maybe a little bit different. So I just wanted clarification. That's all.
Okay, I'll turn it to the clerk.
All right, so I will review the election process. A member may nominate another member or themselves, and a nomination does not require a seconder. Then I will confirm with each nominee if they wish their name to stand immediately following the nomination. I will continue to call for nominations until there are no further nominations are put on the floor. I will then ask each nominee in order of the nomination to briefly explain why they are interested in the position, and nominees will have up to 2 minutes if they choose to speak. After all nominees have spoken, I'll call for the vote on the nominees based on the order of nomination. Each member can only vote once. I will only be asking for votes in favor of the nominee. Therefore, if you do not wish to vote for that member, please just abstain from voting. First member receiving a majority vote will be elected. Depending on the number of nominees, if after first round of voting there is not a majority, the nominee with the lowest vote will be removed and the second round would occur. In the event of a tie for the final appointment, the NICE clerk will write the names on a piece of paper and the individual drawn will be appointed. If only one person is nominated and the nominee accepts, the individual will be acclaimed to the position and no vote is required. So right now we have Councillor Baines for the position of chair. We'll do the position of chair first. And right now we have a nomination for the deputy mayor. And I'll ask the deputy mayor, do you want your nomination to stand?
Yes, I'll accept.
Perfect. Is there any further nominations for the position of chair? Seeing no further nominations, the nominations are now deemed closed for the position of chair. And I'll allow each nominee in order of the nominations to speak briefly, up to 2 minutes max if they choose to speak. And I will be starting with Councillor Baines, if you would like to start.
Thank you. I'm delighted to put my name forward in this. I realize my competition is certainly quite more experienced in the role of chair of committee of the whole. But nevertheless, I think I have specific attributes to offer, which is many years in working with conflicting parties in my mediation practice. Not to say that there's any conflicts that are evident in council at all, but I would like to bring those skills to bear if, as, and when they do come up. Other than that, I would leave it to the democratic process. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Baines. And at this point, I will ask the Deputy Mayor if he would like to say a few words up to a maximum of 2 minutes.
Thank you. And I will express my appreciation to Councillor Ring for the nomination. I'm always willing to take on responsibility and the chair I would willingly take on for the period of time. I'm not going to add anything more than that in regards to qualifications for that, but I just turn if a majority of members would like me to be chairing, then I'm willing to do it. Thank you.
Okay. Our nominees have spoken, so now I will call for the vote in order of the nominations that have been received. All those in favor of Councillor Baines as chair, please raise your yes card. We have 3. And all those in favor of the deputy mayor for the position of chair, raise your yes card. And we have 4. So we have a chair, and the chair is the Deputy Mayor Fryer. Moving forward, so your first meeting will be February the 2nd. Now I'll open up the nominations for the position of vice chair. And I will call for nominations for the position of vice chair. Councillor Potts.
Nominate Councillor Jeffrey.
And Councillor Jeffrey, do you accept the nomination?
I really appreciate the nomination, but I really think that for now, the opportunity always was for giving opportunity to someone new, and I don't believe that Councillor McCulloch has had an opportunity yet. So I will decline with appreciation.
Thank you. Is there any further nominations for the position of vice chair? Okay, seeing no nominations for the position of vice chair, we do have Councillor McCulloch's name will stand and will be acclaimed for that position of vice chair moving forward. So our chair will be Deputy Mayor Fryer, and our deputy or vice chair will be Councillor McCulloch.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations. We'll move on to notices of motion. Councillor Jeffrey, do you have one?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Simply at this point that the Town of Collingwood procedural bylaw be amended to include the requirement of offering to other members of council around the table discussion on the matter at hand following the moving of a motion to defer, and that once discussion is concluded, a seconder be sought and a vote on deferral be taken.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Potts.
Thanks, Chair Perry. I think if I could look to Clerk Almost in regards to the notice of motion for the bowling alley, Georgian Bowl development charges, I think it's more or less just asking for an update or a report back on the.
And just confirming you're satisfied with the with it not being a staff report, as long as there's a report either operationally or departmentally on the agenda, or even through the Friday email, or do you want to report it back at council?
I think I would like it reported back at council, and I think there's just a lot of clarification, timing, timelines, and just how to help understand, because I also look at this as precedent as well, is just on how the process works. So that's all. Thanks.
Good.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Doherty.
Thank you. I was just going to ask the clerk if she could post the motion, because it went by so fast I didn't get all of it. Or you can repeat it.
It's a notice of motion. It will go in writing in the next agenda. Do you want me to explain it?
Explain it. Okay, that's fine.
That the Town of Collingwood procedural bylaw be amended to include the requirement of offering to other members of council around the table discussion on the matter at hand following the moving of a motion to defer, and that once discussion is concluded, a seconder be sought and a vote on deferral be taken.
Thank you. That's what I thought you said. I just wanted to make sure.
All right. No more notice of motions? Okay, seeing this is my last committee of the whole meeting in the chair position, I'd like to begin by thanking Councillor Jeffrey for first presenting the idea for councillors to chair these meetings back in 2014-15, and to Mayor Hamlin for pursuing the idea this term, proving once again that sometimes great ideas do, in fact, survive committees. They may just take a little while. Thanks to all of you, including staff, for being patient and understanding while I learned the ropes. And by learning the ropes, I mean tied them wrong, untangled them, watched them mysteriously knot themselves during motions and amendments, and eventually figured out which rope does what without accidentally calling a recess. I especially want to thank Clerk Almus. Your ability to react instantly and guide me through confusing motions, amendments, and situations was invaluable. Sometimes it was just a subtle hand gesture or a look, and I knew exactly what you meant. This has truly been an amazing experience. Thank you all. It's been a privilege, a learning curve, and occasionally an aerobic workout, and I appreciate every moment. So with that, I'll read in item 15.8.1, motion to rise from committee of the whole. The recommendation is that council herein rise from committee of the whole and return to a regular council meeting. Can I have a mover? Councillor Rang, seconded. Councillor Perry. There we go. And I'll hand it over to the, oh, sorry, got to have a vote. See, I messed it up, last one. All in favor? That's unanimous. Deputy Mayor Fryer.
Thank you, former Chair Perry. We'll read in the confirmatory bylaw. That bylaw number 2026-003, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of council held January 19th, 2026, be enacted and passed this 19th day of January 2026. And a mover and a seconder. Mover, Councillor Perry, seconder, Councillor Doherty, and all those in favor? That passes, and the adjournment is Councillor Jeffrey. All in favor? That passes. Thank you very much, and have a good night.
Looks like you got it, Councillor Ring. You did.